Welcome back. I'm Bill Quinn, and I am delighted to be joined today by Sheila Holm. Sheila, thank you again for making time for us. I'm sure this is going to be just as valuable for the folks as our other segments. Thank you.
It's a very different segment I think we're going to have today, but it's all good. It's all getting us to where we need to be and what we need to know.
Very well could be. So you were kind enough to send along some of your materials. We've assembled some more here in the studio, and so take us where you would like to start, please, for today's session.
Well, something that has had our nation stuck is the First Landing Covenant. So why don't we start with the 1607 Covenant? And because that's what the root of all of this is. That's the root of maritime law. It's the root of the admiralty process. It's the root of what happened. Yep. And so in the covenant, what they did in the covenant was they aligned with England, and they included England. And so what they said was that to this land and also to the land of England, along with England. And so they covenanted right with England to evangelize. And most of the Native Americans already knew the truth and had already etched the truth in ancient Hebrew all across this land. We're finding their etchings in stone all across America, from one shore to the other shore. And but what they were doing in this covenant in 1607, which people have called it to say it's failed, it failed because they kept realigned with England. Now, the difference between 1607 and what the Pilgrims brought for liberty and freedom. So they knew that we had to be separate and set apart from the world. And so this covenant is being read constantly across America. So I want to warn people, when you continue to make a covenant with England, it keeps you under the rule of England, which we were until President Trump. It keeps you in the structure that England controls and commands us. And that's what they did until President Trump, 2017. All of this is what's keeping people stuck. So I'm so glad we have a moment today to bring all of this up, because there's an entire structure they built around 1607. They wanted me to be at some famous 1607 event. They started this in like 2022, 2023 time frame, and they held this big event on the date. I think it's in June, and they wanted me to be at this event, and God said no. And they said, but Sheila, it has to do with the people coming and covenanting with God. Well, this is covenanting with God to do works for God, to do evangelism for God, but do it along with England. England was boiling the fathers in oil who taught the kids the Lord's Prayer in English, because the Lord's Prayer in English was only available in 1535 when Tyndale translated the Bible into English and smuggled it back to England. That was 1535. Then they burned him at the stake, plus all of the men who helped him print them. They ruined the printing operation in Germany. That man was killed. All the people involved, I believe, in the smuggling and everything were all brought to justice. And then they sent a con man to go get William Tyndale. So if you have not seen the video yet, there's a video called God's Outlaw. It's a little DVD. I found it at Lifeway Books. But look what they did to us. We didn't even most did not realize Lifeway bought out all the Berean, all the other bookstores, and then Family Life bought out all the rest of the bookstores, and then both of those went bankrupt and closed all their stores. Now, how do you spend a lot of money buying a store and then say you're bankrupt and you close the store? So that's what they did, and all those Christian bookstores are closed. So right now, I still am able to purchase things through christianbook.com, but that's about the only place that anything is available other than Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And so, but this is what happens when you covenant that your works are what are going to be the focus, and it's going to be aligned with England. So here's the difference with the process of the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims are called Puritans. And there's a monumental DVD by Kirk Cameron, and he did a path of the Pilgrims coming to America. And when he did that, the woman said that was talking to him in England that when they pronounced Puritans, they were spitting. They're Puritans. That it was a horrible thing to be a Puritan, to have that tight relationship with the Father. But that's England, because they didn't want the people to have the relationship with the Father. They didn't want the people to have the truth. That's why they had to burn William Tyndale and everybody around him at the stake. So when they brought him back to England and burned him at the stake, it's 3 years later in 1538, when they credited Cloverdale with the same Bible, but they made the adjustments they wanted to make.
Huh.
So that's what happened, and that's what the Pilgrims wanted to get away from. So when they came, it was the third time they came by 1620. They started their journey much earlier, but the people, the captains of the ships were working with the people in England and took their money, and then they ended up going to jail, and the captain kept the money, and England just kept stopping them from coming. And so I believe it was the third try, or they'd already tried 3 times, and then finally the Mayflower arrived in 1620. So when they arrived and they knew the Native Americans, and they all could combine together, but learning the English versus learning the Hebrew, because the modern Hebrew wasn't developed until just in the last few decades. I mean, it's just probably in the later, I don't remember, Eliezer ben Yehuda is the one who God assigned to modernize Hebrew. And I don't remember the dates of his life, but he was dying. And God said, the one thing you can do, because he said, what can I do with the rest of my days? And God said, I want you to modernize the Hebrew language so more will understand the truth. Because if you forget your language and your land, you have no culture. And that's what happens when we have all these infiltrations into America of all these different cultures in huge numbers, which is what's happened to us repeatedly. You lose your culture. You lose where your grounding is. And then they took us to the Noahide Laws and said those were the founding of our country. And the Noahide Laws are the Babylonian Talmud 7 laws. And those are in book 5 and also in the new book. And they're in the reference section. I put the whole thing in so you can see it. It was put in 1992 under George H.W. Scherf, who went by Bush in America. And then his counterpart, Clinton, did it again in his term in 1993, and they expanded it into the education system. They honored a rabbi, but what people don't realize is the Babylonians have rabbis also. And so a rabbi is like a teacher. And so everybody thought if they're a rabbi, then they're Jewish, but it's not about Jewish. Jewish was a religion. The rabbis are the teachers of those languages. And the language for us is the Hebrew background, and we're Hebrew Israelites. And so gaining this understanding and gaining where we are and who we are. That's why people kept saying, how do you know this? You didn't live during the Civil War time. How did you know that they knew that what the Pilgrims brought was already gone? That we've been fighting right now. We're just finding out as Americans what the Civil War soldiers knew by being in the Civil War at that time. So here we are all these years later, still living in this whole takeover of America and not realizing that we were stuck under England. And that's why I'm so glad to bring out the 1607 covenant today, is that I've written to the people who have established this organization. They've got a board of directors and everything about the 1607 covenant. You have to be very, very careful what your words are, because if you are with the Father, your power and authority has power and authority because Christ is in you. But if you choose to say the things that take us back in time, that take us under the covering of something else, and this absolutely rededicates us to be involved with England. And so that's why this never happened. And that then the faith monument that the Pilgrims put up gave us the exact 4 pillars on how to raise a child in the way they should go, so we will stay in liberty and freedom for the rest of our life. And that 4 pillars is so simple. It's in Plymouth. It's in a little cul-de-sac area. There's a little road that goes around it, but it's just there's a cul-de-sac of houses all around it. And it's up on a hill. I think it's on Allen Avenue. I can't remember the address now, but this is a faith. She's holding a Bible with her left hand and pointing to heaven. Because all of our direction comes from heaven. You know, and President Trump, I love when he points up and said, that's the boss. He's the boss. I'm not the boss. People call me the boss, right, but he's the boss. And I'm just your president, and Christ is your savior. He's making it very, very clear, because he said, who's the most popular man? It's not me, because he has now gained global recognition on a global scale. I mean, a huge global acknowledgement of exactly who he is and what he's done, because he's bringing peace to all nations. Just in the last few months, he has brought peace in nations that have never had peace, ever
Right.
had peace.
He's ended conflicts that were 30, 40 years in the making. People are astounded, yet one of the things that confuses many is how come the folks on the left they don't even acknowledge that this is going on. It's almost as if they don't see it. It's bizarre.
Well, because they live in it. There's two kingdoms. You're either operating tight with the Father to get through this storm, or you are operating in the other kingdom. Now, I don't know if you have that, if it's possible to bring up that link, the YouTube link with the Through the Storm that just came out today.
I think I downloaded it. Bear with me for a moment, and let's see if I have that. Into the Storm, I think, yes.
Through the Storm.
Through the Storm, okay.
And there's a picture I sent of the Twitter, of the tweet that I retweeted that has the picture of what they were describing, and then it has the link in it, and then I sent the link.
Okay, I actually downloaded the video. I don't have that Twitter with me at the moment. Shall we play the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will send you the link to your email.
Okay, thank you.
My name is James McCrank. I would like to ask the board a question. Are you guys familiar with the Nassau Act? Are you familiar with it? You're not familiar.
Can't say that I am, but we generally don't respond, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's important that we do get response, because we're not getting any response, and that's why we're all here. The bottom line is this. The United States of America Corporation is dead. Trump killed it 3 years ago. That flag doesn't represent us. That gold fringe around that flag is the signature of the corporation. And the reason that the media is not reporting it, the reason you guys aren't showing up, our sheriff isn't showing up, are you guys part of the corporation, or are you part of America? Because everyone here is standing up for our rights. What legacy are you guys going to leave behind for your grandchildren and your kids? And I'm surprised that there ain't thousands of people here tonight. Either we got to do the right thing here, audit these elections, or the military is going to come in and do it. And if they do it, people are going to jail.
Through the storm, our birthrights that the bankers stole, they engineered each crash. They filled their vaults with the people's gold as they printed paper cash. A casino called the stock exchange, where the gambling begins. An investment tool to tempt the fool, where the dealer always wins. In this corporate world of government, where nothing's what it seems, your pathway set with every step to a grave of broken dreams. Unlearning everything we knew is a painful place to dwell, as a wizard sits controlling you behind his hidden veil. A global world agenda set by the deep and darkest state. They're puppets dancing on a string to divide the world with hate. The American dream and our flag of hope, they never let us be. We will serve each other under God in the land of the brave and free. We all saw our world collapsing.
The next thing that's got to fall are these failed, corrupt institutions. And when God Almighty sits and takes that judgment seat, it's over. So do what you can to improve the terrain, until there is freedom.
We are the people, we are sovereign, moving forward through the storm. Don't be afraid and hold the line. In the royal house we stand, like McKinley, Lincoln, Kennedy. We were told to trust the plan. The grandmasters playing 5D chess, they all know the art of war. Real generals on this battlefield led the Anons through the door. Information is the biggest threat in our search to find the proof. Such patriots we won't forget, who all dare to share the truth. We once stood alone against the beast, but united we will fall. When we go one, we go alone. But when together we go all. Oh yeah. Through the storm.
Wow, what an amazing video.
It is. Freedom Square, I've been interviewing with them, and they put this short video together. It's Anna Marins out of Brazil. It's through her YouTube channel. She's got about 50,000 or more followers, and that's why I'm doing all I can to get the book transcribed into Portuguese, because they're so hungry for the truth. They're going through what we're going through. South Africa is going through what we're going through. It's the same thing. If you're tight with the Father, that's your way to get through the storm. So now look at all the things that pointed out. That gold fringe around the flag is because we were under England, under maritime law, and all of our court systems under maritime law, and all of our attorneys registered with the bar under maritime law. That's why the Cherokee representative that took the case to not do the Trail of Tears for so many years, and he got all the way to the Supreme Court and won, and still the president, Andrew Jackson at the time, would not enforce it, and that's what's required in the Constitution. And then because they were under England, they decided he was illegal because he didn't have one of their new bar licenses. Our country was brand new, hadn't even been a country for 25 years. And here we were doing this. And we've been under this instruction the whole time. And that's why I'm so grateful to have this time with you today, Bill, because I received this, and they mentioned about Kennedy and Lincoln, et cetera. I received this from a member of the family while I was just on my trip. And it's so profound to see this wording and how people can declare this and not realize what it sticks you under. Because Father's not about works. He's about us being with him, seeing and knowing how to bless, how to be with people, because we're his feet and hands on this earth to make it here as it is in heaven. That's what's in the Lord's Prayer, but you have to align with his will. And this structure of being with England was operating completely against believers. It carried over into America, and that's what the Civil War was about. And they knew. So I don't know if we can bring up the PowerPoint that compares the two and quickly go through the two.
Sure.
Because the power and difference. Well, right before that, can we bring up, sorry to do this to you.
No, that's
can
fine.
we bring up the Bradford quote? Because he was the governor. And if people can imagine and put this into perspective, all these trips they try and make, and he and his wife, and they got all the way to Cape Cod. And the reason why I know it's only like 20 miles now from Cape Cod, maybe 25, all the way up to where they have the erected the Faith Monument. If you look at that distance, they're at Cape Cod, and they feel they're almost where they need to be, right? And she falls overboard and drowns.
Oh, goodness.
So he loses his wife right at that point. You know what I mean? And most of these people came without their children because they wanted to make sure they could do this and set it up and then bring their children after.
So there is the quote, and this is on the monument that you were just pointing out that's in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
The Faith Monument. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so I don't know if it'd be easy. Thus, out of the small beginnings, greater things have been produced by his hand that made all things of nothing and gives being to all things that are. And as of small candle, as one small candle may light 1,000, so the light here kindled hath shone unto many, yea, in some sort of to our whole nation. Let the glorious name of Jehovah have all the praise. Governor William Bradford, first governor of the Pilgrim Colony, because it was Pilgrim Rock and it was Pilgrim Colony that changed to Plymouth Rock on Plymouth Colony. So do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they changed the name of the monument. I don't know if we can bring up that other picture about the faith quote. This is, you see what this says? National Monument to the Forefathers erected by a grateful people. This was all paid for by the Pilgrims. It was all put together by the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims knew exactly what the 4 pillars would be. They prepared absolutely all of this. This was not allowed to go up until 100 years after Washington was inaugurated in 1789. This went up in 1889. And in a little cul-de-sac. And then they call it the National Monument to the Forefathers. Americans don't even know this exists, or that this is even available as information for the people. But you see how they completely renamed it, completely changed all of it, because all the original people were gone. This went up 20 years after the Soldier Monument. And now if we can bring up the comparison of the 2 monuments, now you'll see how drastically different, and yet it's the identical format and identical structure. And because it's concrete form for the Soldier Monument, they got this thing up within 4 years. They laid the cornerstone in 1865. The front of it shows that the bloodiest battle was July 123. So many horrific things have happened in our nation on July 4. We were never independent on July 4. They took out Jefferson and Adams with arsenic, just like they did King George when they were done with him on July 29 of 1820, because I'm sure he was probably feeling a little remorse for what he was doing, because it was the British and Foreign Bible Society that changed these things and took out the Apocrypha, so you wouldn't know how they got to America and other nations and uninhabited lands. Father took care of all of this. It's all in print for us. It's all in the scrolls, and we weren't allowed to know about it. It was in the 1611 King James Bible, and please let me explain. Guys, they didn't just take it out of the King James Bible that you think you have in your hand. It was the 1611 edition. I don't think you have the 1611 edition, because people always write to me and go, well, I've got a King James Bible and it's not in here. They took it out of the 1611 edition of it. And in 1804, when they started going against the Native Americans over in England, they were taking things out of the Bible. So we never got to have any of this in Bibles that we have now. So we didn't know some of these things. So back to what the soldiers knew, by the time the Civil War was happening in 1847, they knew Christ was coming. It couldn't get any worse. So Christ was going to have to come and help the people in 1847. And then they go into the Civil War and find out all they want to do is kill believers. It's the same thing as in England. So let me go back to the film God's Outlaw of Tyndale. You'll really love that DVD, because it tells you how the whole thing was structured. And in the very opening scene are the guards, the king's guards. It was King Henry. And so the king's guards were asking the children if they knew anything. And so they started saying the Lord's Prayer. And then the main guy came with his big thing that they hold, and he stomped it, and he said, find the father and boil him in oil and keep the wife and the children for us. And so all of this about grooming the children, the Pilgrims knew all of this. They weren't just grooming the children in the education of them. They were grooming the children in the royal structure. And so the country was under that umbrella. And so if you couldn't protect your children, children were disappearing. Same things that are happening right now in modern day, current day with us, was all happening back centuries ago. Nothing is, I keep saying this, nothing is new that we're experiencing now that wasn't happening in England. And so the parents got away from that. Also, 1620 was so key to the Pilgrims because what? Every 20 years, there's a pandemic and you lose hundreds of people, thousands of people. All these pandemics, all these viruses, they're all a venom and a poison. Everything that we've been dealing with, and they always do it in a 20-year. Why? 20 to them means recycle unto death because they feel you can keep coming back better. Christmas is a tree, and the limb is what is supposed to resprout and become a new tree on December 25. And one of their gods is supposed to come back because they have several sun gods. But they're all dead. So they just keep believing in reincarnation, and they think the thing is going to get better and better for them, that you get another secret and you get to come back and have a better life, and then you die again and you get to come back, and that's the whole process. That all of this is the other kingdom. And the Pilgrims, when they got the Bible translated into English, they knew what was happening. They knew what was causing it. And that's why they banned that church structure in England for 500 years. That was their, and people go, how do you know it was a 500-year plan? They said, if we ban this for 500 years, people won't return to operate in Gentile worship, which was the Nineveh lesson. And we did this when we did the map on the 3 eclipses over America in 2017, 2023, and 2024. In those 7 years, God gave us those with his signature on our nation. And that Nineveh lesson is they've gone back to Gentile worship. I'm done with them. And so he got his 10 tribes from the north of Israel that were taken captive 109 years before, 721 BC. And in 612 BC, God took them and said, you will not know where they are. That's in the book of Nahum. 100 years after Jonah went in 712 BC, Nahum went in 612 BC. So all of this was get away, get away, get away. And that's what the Pilgrims did by getting away and putting together this structure. And I'm sorry, now we can go to the structure. I'm putting all these other things in today. So I want people to see the layers. There's many layers to this.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, when you say structure, which picture would you like next?
The PowerPoint that has the comparisons.
Okay, very good. There we are.
So the faith monument versus a soldier monument, that you can see how identical they are. And then we'll get into the individual pictures. And then here was our next president is Ulysses S. Grant. And what he said is what there are is there's two parties. You got patriots and you got traitors. There's no difference in where we are today. We have patriots fighting for our country, and we have traitors fighting against and killing patriots that are speaking the truth. Nothing has changed in all of these years. It's always the two kingdoms fighting each other. And that's why Boone Cutler made a wonderful quote. He said, if you stay in this Democrat-Republican conversation, you'll never get out of the mess. You'll never get beyond this. They'll keep you fighting each other. And it's a uniparty against us. And until you realize they're other kingdom and we're not, you're either with the Lord or you're not. You're either fighting for freedom and liberty or you're not. The choice is very clear. That's why when Elijah said, choose this day who you will serve, that was it. All 850 prophets were liars, and everybody called them prophets. We have the same thing going on today. So, and people keep wanting me to say who is and who's not. Father knows. Only the Father knows. He always knows the end from the beginning. The journeys he took me on, he knew what was going to happen and how it was going to resolve and exactly what was going to happen. And all I had to do was align with him and not get out of step with him. That's all I had to do, is just keep operating with him. And that's all we have to do when we're tight with him. And then the next slide is,
oops, sorry, I skipped one.
This is where it starts. Morality. Morality is where you search internal because Christ is in you. Like Father said, why do my people keep wanting a revival? If Christ is in your heart, you'd never be flatlined. He did that when he sent me on the search for Wigglesworth, and I was speechless for a long time. He gives me things that are so profound that it's just like stops you in your tracks. If we had Christ in our heart, we would never flatline. So why would you need to be revived? And we keep talking about revival, revival, revival. And that's why the book, A Wake Up Call, is restoration time, because we can restore each other. That's the blessing cycle. God's storehouse principle. Keep helping each other, blessing each other, uniting together, fellowshipping together. Fellowship, don't be separate from the fellowship of the believers. That doesn't mean go sit in a pew every Sunday. The two things are completely different. So morality is looking internally. So she's got the tablets of the 10 Commandments in her left hand and the scrolls of the Bible in her right. And on the side is evangelist and prophet, because there are a lot of prophets who operate in their own power and have their own words, and they're influencing the people. You've got to be tight with the Father to truly be one that he calls a prophet. And he'll tell you whether or not they're his prophet or not. He will make it very clear. And that's why don't ask Sheila Holm. They can ask Bill if they want to, but don't ask Sheila Holm.
No. Go to
Sheila. Yeah. So that's morality. Now here's the difference in the morality position on that. This is the Greek muse of history. The top, instead of being faith, of this monument where you see history, is a female at the top again, but holding a little sword, and it has completely different meaning. She's called the genius of liberty, because she's keeping a little sword with her and a little wreath. And all of their round wreaths are all also part of the deception of the Christmas structure and the worship of the tree. So here's the muse of history. And they got these built in such a quick time. I'm not kidding. This whole thing was put up with concrete form, building all of it in 4 years, from 1865 to 1869.
Wow.
And the next one is matching law with what they call peace. And law is very simple. You know how you see the weight measure in justice? It's got to be equal of justice and mercy. You don't obtain justice in a court system when there's no mercy. And if you have no justice, you have no mercy. If you've got, it's all equaling out. If you grant mercy in justice, or you're granting justice due to mercy, because it's resolving a situation for the right situation to happen instead of destruction. And you handle it right away. There's pictures on the front of each section of that monument. Now you're noticing on the soldier monument, there's nothing. There's no word.
Your audio is getting just a little chopped up. Could you repeat about the last 30 seconds, please?
What happens is on the picture, you see a few people gathered together. And isn't that what it says that law is? Your justice. If we injure somebody today, I go get a few of my peers, you go get a few of your peers. You have to say to get the decision the attorney wants to get. It's not about the truth. It loses perspective on getting the truth. But now here we have what they have on the soldier monument, and he's called peace. Do you see anything peaceful about that young man?
Looks more like work.
He gave up everything in his life, gave up everything in Europe. He was a factory worker there. He comes, his family lets him go, knowing they'll probably never, ever see him again. That happened to all sorts of families when they said, go and live in this great land and have a great life, because there was no more room for anybody. There was no more opportunity for anybody. There was no more land to divide up for the men in the family. And so in Norway, we have a book from where my dad's family is from in the northern part of Norway near Trondheim. And it just says, gone to America, gone to America, gone to America. They have all the history of the family in one book. They're not reprinting it. I think they should, because it's such a major historical time when all came to America in the place of law. Just keep the peace. And that means you're controlled. and you will continue to be controlled while you're here. And that's what Kennedy said while enslaved. That's what he said. That's the way it's going to be. And he told us exactly the way it was. 7 days later, he's gone. The next slide should be on education.
Okay, bear with me for just a moment. There we go.
Education is where the mother is holding the 10 Commandments in the Bible and training the children in the way they should go. And on the side panels, you have pictures of the grandparents with a globe and with a Bible, teaching them about the world and about the Bible and how things are in the world so they know how to deal with situations. And by the time we came along, it was go out in this world and be successful. Our parents wanted us to have what their parents had by coming to America. And so this is what they do, go out and be successful in the world. So you go get mixed in, you're complying with the world. You're getting involved with the world. The things are structured in the world for you to be enwrapped in what the world does and how the world does it. And so then where's your relationship with the Father? So, and instead of education, look what they have, a wreath or a sheath of wheat that she's holding. And they're calling her plenty. Prosperity is what they call her, but plenty is what the man who was the park ranger was talking to someone one of the times that I was walking by there, and he said, she's a woman of plenty. And I thought, I don't think that's very much plenty in the world, but where's the future for the children? It's already gone by the time of the Civil War. And then the next slide confirms exactly where we are. The man of liberty on the left, he's got his foot on the word tyranny. On the side panel, he's got his foot on the neck of the man wearing the crown. Clear message about England, guys. Clear message. And then the England is represented by a standing up lion. That stand-up lion is also on the crests of both the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. And for a long time, until the double triangle Remphan of Israel flag, and look up Remphan in scripture, you're going to be surprised. It is described in 3 places, in Amos, in Acts, and in Revelation. And the man of liberty has killed and skinned that lion. That lion's head is what he's sitting on. And it's so limp that you can just see one paw up over the shoulder and the other paw on the side. It's taken care of. He's vigilant, looking out to make sure with an eyeglass in his hand, as they did on major ships, to see what was happening from the horizon, whatever is coming toward the ship, to make sure, being so vigilant that the tyranny does not come upon this land where we are now the residents. And so all of this was confirmed in the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine mainly was about, you've got to stop letting this infiltration of all these people from Europe come into America, because doing this, we have lost what we got away from, because it's come back upon us. And then they took him out, just like Jefferson and Adams, on the 55th anniversary. The medicine at the time, guys, was arsenic, poison. A virus is a venom of poison, all developed for us. That's what's in what they give us, and also in the viruses that we end up with. That's not natural in the world. These things are all unnatural that are happening to us. So here's the difference between the man of liberty and where were they by the time of the Civil War? We're at war. They're calling this pillar war. Why? Because tyranny has overtaken this nation. And I kept saying in interviews before I ever found this, I did not find this monument until August of 23, when I was on my way. It was Virginia Beach in July of 23 with Reawaken. And then I was on my way to Batavia, New York. And on my way, I stopped in Gettysburg again. I used to speak in Gettysburg all the time. I'd been to the same Dobbin House restaurant where they've got a nice bed and breakfast. If you go to Gettysburg and want to see anything, get a room at the Dobbin House and stay there, because you get free parking while you're in Gettysburg, and you can just walk over to the National Cemetery, and that's where this monument is. But the reason why we were at war from now on in the rest of our lives, They knew at the time of the Civil War what we are just finding out now in our time in this world. So 100 years later, Kennedy is taken out. Lincoln is taken out then Kennedy's taken out 100 years later, and then here we are, and that's where we are. And as you see with that man, he's got his own musket, and he's got to protect everything. And by his left foot, and it could be in the next panel on that, by his left foot, he's got a stack of cannonballs, and his right foot is on broken clay pots. So they're here, and it's all about assets, and it's all about protect your own. There's no freedom. There's no liberty. It's work your way through your day and do all you can to protect and provide for your own family. Everybody's on their own. And that's where it's been before the Civil War, where they thought it was so bad Christ was going to come in 1847. And then in the front of the monument on the right side, it just says Gettysburg, July 1, 2, 3, 1863. Those were the 3 bloodiest days. And when the men watched and found out, they were absolutely choosing who the believers were and killing the believers, it stopped and the men went home. But that's after we lost over 700,000 lives in America fighting each other, because they told us that it was about slavery. It was not. Emancipation Proclamation happened. It had nothing to do with the Civil War. The Republicans did that, and that was already done. And so that's why they didn't want the Republicans to be different. And the Republican Party had just started. President Lincoln was the first candidate. And it's just like with Christ. It's not that Barabbas wasn't a criminal. They chose to kill truth. So that's what they do, and that's what they've always done, and that's where we are. And I don't know what's on the next slide, but I think it could be the 4-year-old Grayson.
There you go.
When I was there in 23, this 4-year-old that you see with the microphone, he was following me and following me around, and I kept asking him if he wanted to pray with me or pray over me, because his grandma said he loves to pray for people. And so I'd ask him, and he'd go, no. And he would kind of run away. And so then she would ask him. He'd do the same thing, and he kept doing it. So that night, when they got back to the hotel, she said, Grayson, why didn't you want to pray with that woman? And he said, well, didn't you see it? There were all those bright angels around her, so bright white. Didn't you see it, Grandma? And she says, no. And he goes, she was the one that didn't need prayer. And so here he is at 4 years old. And so God said, give him the microphone. So I asked the grandma, and she said, okay. So we called him over. He takes a microphone in his hand, and he says a wonderful thing. There's a video of this that's available with Gideon's Army website. I think it's gideons-army.com. And so when he took the microphone, he gave a wonderful message. It was so endearing. I can't express all those words, but when he got toward the end, he said, I don't know why you people aren't kicking Satan's butt. That's all you have to do is kick Satan's butt. So please, will you start kicking Satan's butt? In the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, amen. Handed me back the microphone and ran off to play. So will we, as a people, start kicking Satan's butt? Because his kingdom is what the other kingdom is. There's only 2 kingdoms. And that's why it was easy for Elijah. Choose this day who you will serve. And that's why what was happening in England, they got away from. And because they're calling it the first landing, but it's a couple hundred years after, or 100 and some years, because it was like 1492 to 1607 from Columbus supposedly getting to America and bringing the Jewish people out of Spain. But those were not the people. God didn't arrange that. They were escaping because they were killing them. And so they were given one chance to leave. But Christopher Columbus was Jewish also, out of Italy. His name was Cologne, out of Italy. So he was not Christopher Columbus. That's not his name. That wasn't his family lineage. So he collected money from the Jews to have their ships go in his same armada when his ship went. He delayed it a day because he believed in the feasts and festivals of the Lord. Okay, so he was of that background, and yet he collected money from the king and queen of Spain, and he collected money from the Jewish people to help them get across. And so he was working both sides. So that's who he was. But the powerful thing that happened for America was when the Bible was translated into English, the Pilgrims knew the truth. The Pilgrims knew those 4 pillars would be, if you could get everyone to understand those 4 pillars and fellowship freely together, and if you fellowship together with fathers, apostle, and prophet, with Christ as the chief cornerstone, then you know structure, you know the word of the Lord, until you come under the umbrella and you know the absolute truth, being tight with the Father. And that's where we've been talking about gathering together and being tight with the Lord since I've been doing interviews in 2018. I've made it specific. Yep. Because Father said that's how tight it is. And in 2014, the first trilogy was so urgent that it was all done, 3 books and 1 workbook in 2 months. And I said, why all of this? And he said, it's that urgent that my people learn how to walk in faith, bless each other in the blessing storehouse principle concept, because then my people would be prepared to operate in my currency, and it wouldn't matter what happened in the world. The whole thing could collapse. My people would survive. That's what he was concerned about for his people, and we're still there.
Amazing stories.
Amazing days. These are the most amazing days, because ever since the Garden of Eden, it's never been any different. I mean, if Cain could have killed Adam, he killed Abel, lied about it. And people said, well, Adam should have done better. I said, Adam lied to God too. Adam was so ashamed that when he was confirmed as lying to God, that he left the garden. And that's what Lucifer, Satan, Baphomet, cockatrice, everybody is used against us from the very beginning. All these different God structures and man-made gods and deified out of Egypt. It's ridiculous what they have done and gotten away with. And we've felt that those are other gods. And they do draw people in, but all their gods are dead. And so what the thing is that's going for us is having the Lord of all, the Aleph that is life and truth. And that's why they want to kill truth. They want us killed because the only thing in the other kingdom is all about death. It's all about dying and coming back, dying and coming back. That's their whole process. There is no other thing. When I was in Japan, it was the wildest thing where they wanted to be so good to you, and they were just handing gifts to me all the time. And I said, what is this all about? They said, I do not want to come back as a grasshopper. I said, I mean, these are the guys doing the tour guide tours and everything, because I was there with Sony. And so when I was on my own, and I didn't know Japanese, English combo. In fact, they taught me out in the country Japanese. So when I was in the meeting, when I arrived, I was using the out in the country Japanese. The guys were just cracking up because the guys in San Diego told the guys in Japan what they had done to me. So they were all waiting to see if I would understand, And I kept saying hi to everybody. And when you say hi, that means yes. And so they were prepped with Japanese phrases to get me to do all this stuff. So 7 to 10-day trip expanded to 30 days because I had agreed to do all this stuff while I was there. It was crazy. But if we will come together in truth, because truth is all we have. And truth is who the Father is. He is truth and life. Without him is only death. And that's the difference between the two kingdoms. And that's why you can't go back under man's plan. You can't go back under an English rule. You can't go back under a man manipulation and control. If you're going to operate with the Father, you're separate and set apart from the world. It's right in the scriptures. May my people become separate and set apart from the world. And that's what the Pilgrims, Puritans did. They tried to do it for 500 years. And Ulysses S. Grant, that we showed you right up in the beginning, Ulysses S. Grant became the next president. And in 1870, they forced him to sign the law that Christmas is a law. You have to celebrate Christmas. The 13 high holy days of the Satanists of the whole year, from December 24 to January 6. Now, let me tell you the other crazy part about this. Do you know what December 24 is to the Lord? That's the night that Christ was conceived. So when they try to say that Christ was born on Christmas, he was never born on Christmas. Christmas has nothing to do with him. They say all the gods but Dionysus was born on December 25. So they decided, since he was over the vineyard and the wineries, the wine, they brought his birthday over to December 25. How crazy is that? And so since that's on the Roman calendar, that's why they still use that even though that's the 10th month of the year, they make it our 12th month of the year. They've just confused everything. But we're going to get all this straightened out so that we can all be on the same calendar, the same dates, the same truth. Because now we're at a point where Father is revealing all of this to us, the first chance since the Garden of Eden for us to clean all this up. Our men have tried since the Civil War 6-7 times to make this happen. And so many have died trying to make it happen. And it took a Donald Trump and a mom, a believing mom, whose would have been the grandfather Smith that was related to the two sisters of the Hebrides revival. That's how strong the faith of that family was. That the two sisters, one was blind, the one that got the vision from God was blind. How wonderful is that? And the sister was so fraught with arthritis, she was bent over. And they never asked for anything from the Father, except they wanted the Father to touch the hearts of the fishmongers because their language was so bad. That's how it all started. As they just kept praying for the fishmongers, and they just kept praying and praying, and it expanded to all the people so that all the people could be tight with the Father. And when that whole thing happened, the sister who was blind was no longer blind, and the sister who was fraught with arthritis was no longer bent over. The two sisters were completely healed, not asking for a thing from the Father. It was just done by the Father.
Wow. It does feel to me like we are, the people are making progress. Is that what you're feeling, Sheila?
Yes. Yes. We're waking up to the fact that there are completely different people in the world. And what's really funny is COVID was the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
When we were having to sit 6 feet apart and stand 6 feet apart, exactly like the satanic ritualistic gatherings. And those who were not to have a voice were masked and forced to wear a mask and to not speak. And that's what they did to us when people started realizing the difference, because nobody knew that's how everything worked in the other kingdom. Nobody ever considered it the other kingdom. Everybody thought their family, and the parents had no idea how the children were being so rebellious. They were telling them to go out and be successful in the world, learn as much as you can in all of these universities. They were all corrupted. I mean, it's no mistake that the King and Queen of England, the president and wife of Harvard, and the King and Queen of Sweden were all getting COVID on the exact same day and removed on the exact same day. I mean, just those three couples. How amazing is that on the calendar?
There are no coincidences, are there?
No. So these are amazing times. I'm just so grateful we could have this time together to pull all of this together, because I had not studied this covenant. God just said, you're not going to be part of 1607. You're not going to be communicating about 1607. You're not going to be in alignment with 1607. And I did not realize the depth of it until I got this covenant this last week.
And now it makes so much more sense. And especially in light of the video you shared, it's like the pieces are fitting together in a way that anybody can begin to understand, aren't they?
Yes, because they've done all this to us, and we thought we could trust everybody. I mean, how many people? I mean, we trusted everybody. We trusted who we voted on. We trusted how we did everything. We trusted that the vote would be clean. We trusted that because they were in these positions so long that we should just keep voting for them. And so they were in for 40, 50 years, Yeah. So it didn't take much to get here, because we all just we were complying a long, long time before the vaccine, complying with the vaccine.
Yeah.
And I didn't comply with any of this because I had a medical legal corporation. And so I've been out of the medical industry with exams and everything since 1989. I want nothing to do with any of it. I don't, because it's all controlled under the structure that was developed by John D. Rockefeller. He took over the medical schools. He took over what the medical industry could and could not do. He's over the American Cancer Society, probably the Red Cross, but I know he was developing the American Cancer Society, and all this is under the Knights of Pythias. All of this is in the secret societies that go back to the roots of all of this. And all of this was brought into our country. These are the people who lived it and did all of this in Europe. and now it's all here.
That's right. And we've done an entire segment on the secret societies and how they created, in some cases, and in other cases, infiltrated organizations to be able to control them and drive us in a particular direction and enforce certain things that they wanted enforced certain ways. It is indeed troubling. Oh, goodness. Well, so what can people be doing to learn more? Because we've spent an hour on talking about these things, but you've got so much more in what you've written about and so forth. Can you share with us how they can find those things?
Well, everything is on hisbest.org. And there's a wonderful, and these are some of the books that are on there. The book series is now going to have a 6 and 7 as soon as I can get to it. I'm trying to get second edition Nation Restoration done first, but we'll see what God does. But 6 and 7 have been in process, but that new book took the place of everything. And so I didn't, but that new book feeds into 6 and 7. And these 5 led to the new book. Father had this all planned out. I had no idea the kind of ride I was on with him, or the journey, where the journey would come to this point. It's just been amazing to me. But there's a wonderful little thing. If you go to the interviews page and go down to the podcast section, you'll see this is the Hebrew video that Sheila always talks about. And I made it available because that Hebrew video confirms what I've been saying again today. Father is life and truth, and the other kingdom is only death. And it's explained in the Hebrew language and in his name. The very name he put on our 3 eclipses and put on our nation in 2017, 23, and 24 eclipses that never happen in less than 25 to 30 years each. And he caused it to come across our nation 3 times in exactly those years of Trump, 2017 and 2024. Those 3 eclipses, 17, 23, and 24, were all done and form his signature across our nation. I mean, this whole thing is miraculous and giving us a Nineveh lesson so we would never forget what happened to the people of Nineveh. Because now there is no Assyria, there is no Nineveh. It's Mosul in Iraq is where it is now. Where they had taken the 10 tribes of the north of Israel captive.
I'll be darned. So the new book, and we'll put the slide up here in just a moment, is An Eternal Plan. And we've done a number of different pieces from that book. I believe we'll be doing more in future segments. Is that right?
There's more. There's a lot more.
A lot more.
Yeah, I thought we just had to do this today. I'm so grateful you made this available today because it just really hit me when I saw the words of this. And I thought, people don't realize the power and authority we have can keep us stuck by saying some of the wrong things. Yeah. By giving all the glory back to God when he gives us his glory. Operating with him in the glory is an experience I hope everybody gets to have. And when he does that, nothing else matters. You're in a white cloud and you don't know what's going on in the world. You're just completely with him. It is such an amazing thing. And keeping our heads bowed and our eyes closed is another thing that's not true. The army of God keeps their eyes open and is vigilant at all times. Who's needing blessings? Who is hurting at this time? Who's in need of things? That's why we're here, is to bring all to him. And every head bowed, every eye closed is what the enemy wants. So please, we just got to be with him. Just be with him. It's just, people want to be there like I am. You want a relationship with him and what he's going to do for you. He's got plans for each of us. You could end up being on earth your whole life and never knowing those plans. I really hope that you will pray now to thank Father, instead of always asking him, thank you, Father, for revealing to me this day who I can bless. Thank you, Father, for revealing your truth to me. Thank you, Father, for revealing what you have in store for me on this day so that I don't miss anything. I've had a lot of people that have known me for a long time in San Diego, and they just go, well, just tell me about 15 minutes of your day. That's about all I can handle, because he's got gems around the corner for us all the time. And that's why when people say in the books, they don't get any sleep because there's so many gems that all of a sudden there's 6-7 pages into a chapter. And they said, okay, God, I'm going to sleep as soon as I finish this chapter, but they peek at the next chapter and there's another gem. That's how he is in my life. I'm expressing things to you the way he expresses them to me, in the form and the manner he expresses them to me. But that's available to all of us. Seriously, he doesn't love me 1 ounce more than anybody who's hearing any message from me. He is so desirous. He's a jealous God. He wants you. He doesn't want you all to come to me and ask for Sheila Holm's opinion because I don't have an opinion about anything. And people ask me, what do you think of this organization? Or what do you think of this building? Or what do you think of this symbol? If he hasn't directed me to it, I have no thoughts on it at all. So I only express what he gives me. And I don't add to it because we're not to add to it, subtract from it. I just give it to you the way he gives it to me. And it's so much fun. So I'm really glad you're enjoying the books. And I really appreciate your feedback. And those of you who've sent in donations, I cannot thank you enough because there's so many people in need. And sometimes it's just 300 or 500 to keep them off the street. Because I'm helping single mothers too, because their children have an orphan's heart. The fatherless, in the original structure, God said in James, see to the needs of my fatherless, because those are the ones that don't have the direct line of authority through the earthly father to the heavenly father. And so I was so fortunate to have such an amazing father who said, I've always loved you, but I didn't quite understand you ever since God dropped you in our lives. And I thought, well, that's really crazy. And but then I said the same thing to the Lord. What were we thinking dropping me in Nebraska? You know, all this snow and then he laughed with me when there's a thing in Nebraska. Now, I didn't mean to even go into this today, but it's kind of funny because he said, I had the plan together for you and, but it wasn't the right time. And there's a thing that happened. And now there's a town in Nebraska called Ashfall because a huge volcanic eruption happened. And I don't know where that eruption was, but I've been to Ashfall. And what happened is it was a tropical climate. And it had all the palm trees and everything in Nebraska, guys. I'm not kidding you. It was a whole different environment. And because of the volcanic ash falling, the animals, prehistoric animals were there. And they were going through to get to the water hole. And when they got to the water hole, they couldn't get enough water to get, none of them survived. So they were dying on top of each other. And the University of Nebraska has spent years now going through, since this was just found a few years ago, they're going through all these layers, finding all these different animals that were animals in Nebraska that has not had a tropical climate since then. So
wow, what a fascinating story. Huh.
It's amazing what God will reveal to you when you least expect it.
Yeah.
You know, because he said, I had a plan for you, but this is really the right time for you. And I said, yeah, because it was snow all but like 3-4 months a year. And because they're in book 2, in the beginning of book 2, For the Sake of America, you'll see where there was 6 inches of snow dropped within a 2-mile radius from the point of where my donated car in Georgia was parked on my mom and dad's driveway. So on the driveway of their home, if you would have put a pinpoint there's a 2-mile radius around where that car was parked, where all of the 6 inches dumped. It left Denver, Colorado. God said, listen to the news. So I went on. The weatherman was going to tell me about a phenomenon. I said, a weather phenomenon? And that's the wording when I turned it on, that's the wording that the weatherman used. He said there was a weather phenomenon last night. There was a huge storm leaving Denver, Colorado, and it was raised up into the atmosphere. It was on its way to Kansas City. Kansas City is 6.5 hours south of us. And so it was picked up into the atmosphere and it dropped on one small 2-mile radius location in Northeast Nebraska. And I'm like, Northeast Nebraska? I mean, are you kidding me? And there were no more tow trucks and they canceled school, everything. This is May 1 when this happened in 2017.
Wow.
And so the picture is in the book because I kept saying, God, you were supposed to wake me up. We've got to get back to Georgia today. And now, the sun's already shining. And God said, well, look outside. I said, I have to look outside to see the sun shining. And he said, no, go look outside. And when I looked outside, and you'll see in the picture, the limbs of the Dad loved blue spruce. So there's blue spruce trees all along the driveway. And they're so heavy with snow, and the car is completely covered with snow. He said, you aren't going anywhere today anyway. And so that's why I didn't wake you. I'm like, oh, wow. 6 inches of snow. Are you kidding me? It was 80 degrees in Gulf the day before. It was 80 degrees in Gulf the day after. But on that day when I'm supposed to be leaving, but it was for me to stay a while with my mom. And that was our last long time. I mean, I was there almost a month because my brother was coming for Mother's Day if I was going to be there. So I stayed for that. And then Mom was asked to be the one to put the wreaths on the unknown soldiers in all the different cemeteries in the county. And so she was picked that year. So I stayed and did all the pictures and everything with her for that. And so I was there from May 1 all the way through May. Didn't go back to Georgia until in June.
Wow.
So,
well, thank you for sharing that. Sheila, thank you so much for being with us again and being so generous with your time and your guidance. Can't wait till the next time. So in the meantime, blessings to you, and we will hope to see you soon.
And blessings upon you and your beloved and your little cat, Grace.
Yeah, that's very kind.
Haven't
Thank
seen
you.
her on any of the newest interviews. She hasn't come across the screen yet. So,
All right. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
yeah, bless you.